What's up YouTube? This is Brian from Bull Strength coming at you with another video, and today we're going to be talking all about the kettlebell. The first exercise we're going to talk about is the kettlebell swing, which is basically a hip hinge movement. So what we want to do with our setup, we want to make sure we get enough momentum on the first rep. So we want to stand back so that we can actually throw the kettlebell back. So what we want to do is swing the kettlebell high in our hips, catch it in our hips, and then drive outward with as much hip thrust as we can. We're going to be squeezing our glutes and our abs at the top, okay? Then we're going to throw it back down. We're going to get lots of momentum on the way back, catch it in our hips again, and then throw it back out, okay? So it looks like this. Now there's also a 2 kettlebell variation if you prefer to do it this way. Alright, next movement is another kettlebell swing. We're going to be going through a few different types of kettlebell swings. But this is a kettlebell swing combined with a calf raise. So basically, once the weight gets all the way up to parallel, you're going to come up on your calves and flex your calves. It's going to look like this. Alright, the next one's going to be a kettlebell swing with a step, okay? So we're going to swing the weight out, step forward with both feet, bring it back and catch it. Alright, on a few of these clips the audio didn't really come through, so I'm going to have to dub the audio over. So this next movement is the goblet squat, which basically you're going to get 1 kettlebell or 2 kettlebells up in the rack, break at the knees, and squat down with your chest up. Alright, the next movement is a sumo deadlift. Just like with the barbell, we're going to go wide stance. We're going to come down on the kettlebell with our chest up. We're just going to drive with our legs and stand up with it. Alright, and our next movement is a conventional deadlift. So all you're going to do is stand with a close stance in between 2 kettlebells, get your hands on the handles, sink your hips down, keep your chest up, and drive with your legs. The next movement is a Romanian deadlift. So this is going to hit our lower back a little bit more. So we're going to keep our legs pretty stiff, going to come down, pick the weight up, hinge at the hips, lower it down until you feel a good amount of tension on your hamstrings, and then bring it back up. The next movement is a single leg deadlift, which is a unilateral deadlift. So the same leg that you're picking up the weight with is going to be down on the ground. The other one's going to go straight back, grab the kettlebell, and stand up with it. Alright, the next movement is a racked lunge. So with the kettlebells in the rack, we're just going to step forward to a forward lunge and back. Now don't bring your knee all the way down to the ground. You want to stop just shy of touching the ground. And then of course, if you don't want to hold it up in the rack, let's say that maybe you don't have very good posture, you can hold it down at your sides like this and do the same thing. Alright, that's pretty much it for leg exercises. Now we're going to be talking a little bit about back exercises. Alright, and the first back exercise is a 3-point row. So what you're going to do is put your hand on an object or up against the wall. You're going to lunge back, and then in between the lunge legs, you're basically going to grab a kettlebell and pull it up into your hips, one side at a time, and then switch sides. The next back movement is an upright row. Now, the upright row is a pretty trash movement. However, with kettlebells, it's actually not too bad because this isn't nearly as hard on your wrist as it is with the barbell. So what you're going to do is just let the weight hang like so, pull it up to your chin, and back down. All that stress that you feel doing upright rows with the barbell, I promise you, you're not going to feel it with the kettlebell. The next back movement is a bent over row. So all we're going to do is pick the weights up, push our hips back, let the weight hang, and you're going to pull both weights into your hips. Pull your elbows back. Next one is a Pendlay Row. So this is going to be very similar to the bent over row, just we're going to start and stop off of the ground every rep. So get in position, push your hips back, chest up, pull it up to your hips, elbows back down to the ground. And this next back movement is a kettlebell clean. So this is going to be important for getting weight in the rack If you're doing goblet squats or if you're doing presses overhead, this is a good way to get the weight up into position with good form. The setup for this is very similar to the kettlebell swing. So we want to get a lot of momentum on the first rep. Now, a little technique you want to use to stop the kettlebell from punching you in the forearm is to internally rotate your hands as they pass through your hips and pull your elbows in. What that's going to do is cause the kettlebell to orbit your wrist and land a little more softly. So let me show you the difference. So if I'm cleaning with a neutral grip, see how the weights are kind of flipping back, punching me in the forearms? If you can deal with that, I guess that's permissible, but I do not coach that. Internally rotate as it passes through your hips, and that is going to give you a much softer landing in the rack. So it's going to look like this. So from the bottom, internally rotate both hands. Throw it back high into your hips, buck it out, pull your elbows in. All right? So here's another one. Internally rotate, pull them in. Internally rotate, pull them in. All right, and our final back movement is a high pull, which is kind of a full body movement, but it is very focused on your upper back, so I'm including it here. So what you're gonna do is get into a little bit more narrow than a sumo deadlift stance. Come down on the weight, chest up, and instead of just standing up with the weight, we're gonna explode all the way up to our chin, just like we're doing an upright row. Now there's another variation you can do with two kettlebells. Now, the two kettlebell high pull is a little bit more complex. So the setup is very similar to doing a clean, right? So we are going to step back. We're not going to worry about that internal rotation because we're not actually catching it in the rack. We're just pulling it back and then forward, okay? You're going to come down with a pronated grip, throw it back high into your hips, catch it at about shoulder height, and push it back out like you're punching it. Right, so we've talked about leg movements, we've talked about back movements. Now we're going to talk about the shoulders, chest, and arms a little bit. So the first movement we're going to talk about is the Renegade push-up. So this is a great way to do a neutral grip push-up. However, because it's a kettlebell, it's not super stable. So this is going to work a lot of the stabilizing muscles in your arms. Okay? So you're going to get up into a plank, tuck your elbows back, and press up. You can see the instability in my arms. But like I talked about with single leg squats, instability is not necessarily a bad thing. All right, and the next movement is a floor press, just like you would do with a barbell or a pair of dumbbells. Just gonna lay down on your back. Gonna curl the weights up. Elbows tucked 45 degrees. We're just gonna press it straight up and back down. Just make sure you keep tension on your arms the entire time. Don't let yourself get loose down here. Stay nice and tight and press like that. All right, the next movement is a kettlebell overhead press. So we're gonna start off by getting the weight in the rack. Since I just taught you how to do that, let's do it the right way. So internally rotate your hands, throw it back high in your hips, and pull your elbows in. Boom, just like that. Now that we got it up in the rack, we're gonna do some shoulder press. So you can either do them both together, straight up, or you can do one at a time. Pick your poison. Now additionally, if you don't want to do either of these, you can do a seated variation too. It's just like with dumbbells. You would just basically sit down on a bench or a box and press up while you're seated. Okay, next shoulder movement here is a shrug, just your basic shrug. So just lift the weights up, let your arms hang, make sure your triceps are extended. We don't want any angle here in our arms, and you're just gonna shrug. Now remember, we're trying to hit our traps here. We're trying to hit our back. So you don't want to round your shoulders forward because now we're in a really awkward position here. So make sure you're showing your chest off and pulling those shoulders back so that you can actually hit your traps. All right, next movement is a bottoms up kettlebell press. Now this is a more advanced kettlebell press exercise, kind of in the same league as the Renegade push-up. This is going to challenge your stabilizing muscles a lot. So if you're not more advanced in the gym, I wouldn't recommend even trying these. So what you're gonna do, get a little momentum, get the weight up in the rack with the bell facing upward, and then press it straight up. Just try to maintain that upward position on the bell. It is gonna get shaky and unstable. That's the point of the exercise. All right, this next movement is kind of one that I've made up. This is combining a Grok squat and a curl, okay? So what you're gonna do is get down into a body weight squat. You're gonna brace your elbows inside your legs, grab the kettlebell by the horns just like this, and you're just gonna curl it straight up. All right, the next group of movements that we're gonna do now is core. So we're gonna work our abs and our obliques a little bit here. So the first movement we're gonna talk about is an overhead sit-up. Now the first thing you want is something to actually hold your feet down. I'm using a pair of dumbbells, but you can use like the bottom part of a couch, kind of wedge your feet underneath, or have somebody hold your feet for you. It's whatever, you can get creative. So we're laying down, we've got something bracing my feet. Now I'm gonna curl the kettlebells up, do a single floor press, hold the weights up, and I'm just basically gonna do a sit-up with weight overhead. So our next core movement is called a Turkish half get-up. It's a mouthful, and the form is pretty complex, so try to keep up here. So what we're gonna do first, you're gonna get a single kettlebell up. So you're gonna do a single arm floor press, hold it up in position. And what you're gonna do is keep your eyes on the kettlebell. That's gonna help you keep your arm upright. We don't wanna come in forward. We wanna keep it pointed at the sky throughout the whole movement. Now the leg that's on the same side as the pressed kettlebell is gonna be bent and tucked back. The opposite leg is gonna be 45 degrees out. Arm is gonna be parallel with that leg. And what we're gonna do is push off of our hips, up onto our forearm, and lock it out with our hand, okay? So it's gonna look like this. And back down, nice and slow. Don't let yourself slam into the ground. Just explode up, and slowly bring yourself down. All right, and the next core movement is called a figure 8. So what we're gonna do is literally draw an 8 around our legs. So on the first movement here, we want to make sure that our hand is on the outside part of the horn. The reason why is that we're passing it through our legs, and we need to be able to catch it with. So I got my hand on the edge of the bell, on the edge of the horn. Gonna pass it through to here, catch, and now I'm gonna bring it around and do the same thing on the other side. Just drawing an 8 around your legs. Now if you want to make this a little more interesting, on every one of these pass-throughs, you do a side catch. Looks like that. Throw it around, catch. Pass it around, catch. All right, and the next movement is a core rotation movement. Going to be targeting our obliques a little bit more. So this is called a Woodchop. So you're going to grab your kettlebell by the horns, load up your hips, and you're just gonna bring it overhead like that. All right, and the next core movement is the kettlebell halo. So you're gonna hold the kettlebell by the horns, hold it close to your chest, you're just gonna bring it around your head, make a circle, and hold it back down at your chest. Now make sure you are switching directions every set, so we can kind of equal out both sides. And the next core movement is a windmill. Press it up overhead, and what you're going to do is push your hips off to the side, drag your hand down your leg, bring it down so your torso is about parallel with the ground, and then twist back up with it. So very slowly, lower yourself down, and back up. All right, so this next cluster of movements are going to be full body movements, okay? So we're pretty much hitting every muscle in our body with these. So the first one is your good old-fashioned squat thrust. So get the kettlebells up in the rack, you're going to squat down, and as you come up, press overhead. Use the momentum of your squat to press that weight overhead. The next full body movement is the kettlebell snatch. This is one of my favorite movements, and it's very difficult to do. So this is going to be very similar to the clean, right? So we want to internally rotate our hands at the bottom, pass it through our hips. Make sure you have a lot of momentum, and you throw it high in your hips. You're going to buck it out, drive with your glutes, So instead of pulling our elbows in, we're gonna pull them up into a high pull and then lock them out overhead. So it's gonna look like this. So internally rotate, I'm standing back so I get enough momentum on the first rep. I'm gonna throw it high into my hips, all the way overhead. Okay, the next and the last full body movement is a full get up, okay? A full Turkish get up. Now, this is very, very complicated. The form is very difficult here, and I'm giving you a crash course. So if you're really serious about getting this movement done, I would watch a full tutorial on how to do it, but I'll give you the crash course. So basically, you're gonna get down into your half get up, starting position. Okay, so we're gonna press up. We got our leg on the kettlebell side bent. The other leg is fully extended outward. And we're gonna do a half get up. Okay, except from here, you're gonna lunge back with our left leg, like this. And then you're gonna stand up and hold it overhead. In the eccentric portion, you're just gonna do the exact same thing. Hold it up, keep your eyes on the kettlebell, lunge back, hand on the ground, bring your foot forward, and lay back down. Like I said, it's a super complicated movement, so I would recommend looking up a full-blown tutorial for this movement, but hopefully that helps. Okay, now we're just gonna go through a few different loaded carries that you can do with kettlebells. So the first one's gonna be a rack walk. So get the kettlebells up in the rack, do it the right way, turn inward, throw it high into your hips, pull your elbows back and rack it. And then all you're gonna do is just walk with the weight, just like that. All right, the next movement is an overhead carry. So from the rack, press them overhead and just walk. And I'm not gonna make it out of the garage, but you can see what I'm getting at. The next movement is just a farmer's walk. So deadlift the weight up and walk with it. All right, the next movement we can do is called a suitcase walk. So it's very similar to the farmer's walk. We're just picking up one weight instead of two. So pick it up on one side, you're just gonna walk. Basically the same as the farmer's walk, except there's kind of an anti-rotation element to your core here. So we're hitting the obliques a little bit more. All right, and the last loaded carry and the last exercise on this list is probably the most awkward one. This is called a duck walk. So what you're gonna do is sumo deadlift the weight up. You're gonna hold the weight down by your crotch, and you're gonna very awkwardly, like a duck, walk with the weight. Now, if you like to burn a few extra calories, you can quack as you do it. I'm just kidding. But yeah, this is a very popular strongman movement. There's a lot of strongman competitions that require you to duck walk, so this is definitely a good one. All right, that's pretty much it for the video. If you enjoyed the content, please leave a like and subscribe. If you'd like to support this channel, you can do so through Patreon or Subscribestar. Links are down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.